All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Russian Navy pounded near home after flexing muscle abroad. Oh no. Let's jump into this.
Inflict maximum harm. That's what former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev is urging his country to do to the United States to avenge the U.S. Treasury Department's new sanctions on Russia. Now, these sanctions have sent fear and anxiety through Russia's financial system. State media has reported that major banks were blocking customers from withdrawing cash, and that was coming from state media, so consider that. It comes as Putin is sending a nuclear-powered sub and other warships to Havana, just 90 miles off the Florida coast. But what is so striking about Russia's massive show of force that we can all see right now off the
show of force
West Coast is the truth, the reality of Putin's Navy, a fleet that's been decimated since the beginning of the war with Ukraine. Fred Pleitgen is out front.
They're mad.
Ukrainian sea drones racing to attack a Russian warship near Crimea in the Black Sea. The cheap unmanned vessels have allowed Ukraine to decimate Vladimir Putin's Black Sea fleet. Their weapons are not designed to deal with such small sea drones, the soldier says. In most cases, they use anti-ship guns. It's a far cry from the power Moscow is trying to project, not far from the U.S.'s shores.
Right, but it's probably super disrespectful, though. Like, think about this here for a second. You're spending all of this money building these paper submarines, right? Just to get basically decimated, absolutely obliterated by a drone. I got 3 behind me. Guys, understand what's happening here, actually. Listen, I understand they're mad. Of course they're mad. They use, obviously, their currency is based, again, off of the U.S. dollar. The reason why all of these BRICS nations are popping up these days here, BRICS nations being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they're trying to run as far as possible away from the U.S. dollar as they can. Right, and this is the reason why, right? They're scared that if they do something, potentially the U.S. is going to seek revenge by crippling their currency. And this is what's happening. This is why Russia specifically is upset here. But I understand.
Sending some of their most advanced warships to Cuba. Russia's Ministry of Defense saying that the frigate and a nuclear-powered sub, quote, practice the use of high-precision missile weapons by computer-based maritime simulation at the ship-based groupings of a mock enemy. Vladimir Putin has invested heavily in Russia's Navy, which now has a permanent base in Syria and boasts hypersonic missiles. It's no paper tiger, but also not an invincible force, as Ukraine has shown.
Bro, drones, paper tiger.
Ukraine's sea drones, as well as sabotage and air-launched missiles, have destroyed about 1/3 of Russia's Black Sea fleet since the spring of 2022, Ukraine says. Including large landing ships like this one, blown up in Crimea at the end of last year, and submarines destroyed in a dock. The Russians have even lost the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, the Moskva, to what Kiev says was an attack by Ukrainian-made missiles. And the fleet's headquarters in Sevastopol was struck by missiles last year. The repeated humiliations pushing Russian ships further and further away from Ukraine and eventually leading to the dismissal of Russia's Navy chief in March. Not so long ago, Russian state media would celebrate the Navy's single aircraft carrier, the Admiral Kuznetsov, the jewel in the crown. But the ship has long been plagued by mechanical problems and has been in dock for years in Murmansk. Some Western analysts predict it will never set sail again. Despite Putin's glorification of Russia's naval prowess, many of its warships appear vulnerable to both air and sea attacks and lack the technology to compete with Western navies or even cheap maritime drones made in Ukraine.
And Aaron, the Ukrainians say that while the Russians might be gaining ground in other areas, they feel that they've really hurt Moscow's Black Sea fleet and essentially rendered it ineffective. And the Ukrainians say they will continue to develop those sea drones to hurt Vladimir Putin's naval forces even more.
Aaron? I mean, yeah, what else are you going to do? Right? I mean, like, obviously, if you're being bombarded by another country, they're trying to forcefully take your nation, right? I think the smartest thing, for real to do, is to find a way to protect yourself. And if you do realize that by building these maritime drones, these UAVs, obviously we don't have 3 UAVs behind us. Let's just kind of make an example here in terms of drone technology, right? But, yeah, continue making these maritime UAVs. If that's what seems to be working, and imagine, these are not gigantic things. I mean, you should have made your ships to be able to focus on all threats, not just gigantic threats. There was no planning here, guys. But either way.
Aaron?
All right, Fred, thank you very much.
Patrick, if everybody is downplaying this, why did the Russians send this armada, it almost looks like an armada, to Havana?
Right. Stay on that side, though, obviously.
Well, let me show you a little bit of that armada, because, yes, it's true what Cubans say, that other militaries send ships on friendly visits, but not like this. There has never been a nuclear submarine, I'm told, docked in the port of Havana, as you have behind me there, the submarine Kazan. Really just a breathtaking sight when it came in to the harbor yesterday to see such a massive weapon of war. To the other side of it, on the other side of the pier, that is a Gorshkov, Jim. And I should highlight this because this is one of the most modern ships the Russian Navy, Vladimir Putin, has. And let me tell you a little bit about this. It can send hypersonic missiles. It has tested hypersonic missiles. Those fly at a speed of about 6,000 miles per hour. It's not believed that the U.S. has any weapon system that can counter those hypersonic missiles. Jim, for point of reference, I'm in Havana, you're in Washington, D.C. You're only a little bit over 1,000 miles away from where I am right now. So while these are a peaceful visit, we are told they've left the nuclear warheads at home. The Cuban Ministry of Defense says the vehicles, the vessels behind me, are anything but peaceful. Vladimir Putin is sending a message. He's sending it very publicly, and they've been put not in a secret military port here in Cuba.
Right, it's in the
one of
open.
the most visible places there is, right in front of our offices, which makes it very convenient. So certainly in Washington, they're watching this very, very closely.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick, as the son of a Cuban refugee who came to this country right before the Cuban Missile Crisis, I mean, I just kind of wonder what the reception is in Havana, and what do folks think? Are we seeing echoes of all of that, echoes of that chapter in our history, or do folks just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, okay, the Russians are in town?
I'm uncomfortable.
It's interesting because certainly the Russians have come here throughout the years, sometimes secretly, sometimes more publicly, but never like this before. And certainly among certain, a certain class of Cubans, there's a nostalgia for the way the economy was better under the Russians. Let's face it, most Cubans have relatives in Florida. Most Cubans receive remittances from those relatives. They follow U.S. music, U.S. baseball. There is an affinity, a much greater affinity with the country that is closer to them. So for many, many Cubans that I know, they look at this and they feel it's a return to the not so great days of the past.
Interesting. All right, Patrick Ottman, we'll stay in touch with you.
Guys, now, my experience in Cuba. Let's talk about Cuba for a second. Like, are they like Americophiles, guys? I don't know. Not really. That wasn't my specific experience. They seem to kind of idolize Spain a lot more, obviously because of the language, right? I mean, and similar tastes in food. Cuban food is decent, right? And Spain's food is decent, right? So they kind of eat the same things, but that's not the point I'm making here. The point is that this absolutely makes me uncomfortable. I'm fully aware of what what America has done in terms of sanctions to Russia. I think we all understand that. Like, if you have been following it at all, and if you've been also following the things that are going on with the BRICS currency, I get it. Everyone is mad, right? They no longer have any interest in currency backed by the United States of America. They want to run from it. Is it going to work? No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously we need to always keep our eyes open, ears open, right, and be fully aware that that thing is actually out there. Like back when the United States of America was probably at its strongest ever. Right, when our currency actually meant something, it wasn't just this piece of paper, right? Back when it meant like, I could bring this currency, for example, I could bring this currency to the bank and get $2, right? And I could get $2 worth of gold, for example. That's not the case anymore. It's just all nonsense. Right, and what they're doing with their BRICS currency is they're basing it purely off of precious metals. So if you ever realize, if you haven't realized that the silver prices, right, or gold prices or platinum prices, all these prices of precious metals are starting to shoot up. Why? Supply and demand. Obviously, these countries are buying up everything right now. Right. because they're looking to start a currency. They're actually trying to topple the United States dollar, USD. They're trying to, really hard. Really, really hard. And the fact that this warship has come to way too close to our shores, to keep this in mind, these ships, even though they are in Cuba, they have the ability to hit us, right? They do. That's frightening, okay? Why are you so close to us with that? What's going on, right? Ooh. Maybe we should send out some drones. But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. Guys, before we go, are you guys subscribed to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Both are found in the description. Check it out.